Hello, good night. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your questions, also to continue to talk to you about solutions here. Um, so it's so nice to see you. It's so nice to end the night with you as usual. And I'm really working to come here on a daily basis to talk to you about immigration updates, answer questions, also focus on solutions. Hello there on Instagram. It's nice to see you. So that is what I'm doing. Amidst all the chaos, we're focusing on solutions because that is where you're going to get protection. And I do have excellent news. So today was a good day. We got a couple of approvals this week. We've gotten a T visa approval, and then we got two approvals today, as well as work, which are work permits and travel documents. So that has been good. And it goes to show you that there is business moving forward at the USCIS. So not for these forms of relief they have not stopped, right? Keep in mind that the way that what they're focusing on are individuals, hey there, are individuals who do not have options, legal options, right? And um, so they're focusing a lot of their attention right now on immigration enforcement, and it is getting a little scary. Now, I do anticipate that we'll be seeing changes throughout the year at the USCIS. But right now, a lot of the immigration updates are focused on immigration enforcement. That means detention and removal actions. Now, some of the scary things that have been announced is that now they're sending migrants to Guantanamo Bay. Now, Guantanamo Bay is a base in Cuba that has really been reserved for individuals who were labeled as terrorists and sent there to be interrogated. And it does have a bad reputation because there was a lot of torture that happened at Guantanamo Bay. Well, now they're focusing on building tent camps to accommodate as many, hi there, Aisha, as many immigrants, as much as 30,000 immigrants at Guantanamo Bay. This has been challenged, and so a judge has put a temporary stop to sending three Venezuelan migrants that they wanted to send there to Guantanamo Bay. However, what's happening now is at first, what they had said, which I don't even agree with anybody being sent, any immigrants being sent to Guantanamo Bay. However, what they initially announced was the worst of the worst will be sent there to Guantanamo Bay. This raises a lot of, first of all, due process, because contrary to what racist and anti-immigrant immigration individuals might be telling you, immigrants do have rights here. Even immigrants who don't have their papers, you have constitutional rights. And when you are going through a process, when you're detained, you have due process rights. So that means that while they don't have to give you an attorney, like in criminal law, where they give anybody who's indigent, that means anybody who can't afford a lawyer, they are given a lawyer in criminal proceedings. But that's not the case with immigration. But they do have to give you the right to get an attorney. However, if individuals are in Guantanamo Bay, um, there are going to be no attorneys there to represent them. There's no due process, and so that those are the concerns that the judge raised. Is that they have to be very clear on how they plan to ensure access to attorneys and access to their due process rights. But this was only an injunction on, or a hold on, the sending of the three Venezuelan immigrants to Guantanamo Bay. So the administration is still moving forward with sending immigrants to Guantanamo Bay. And it has just been exposed that it's not just the so called worst of the worst, but these people who have no criminal records, who have been just detained, are being sent there. That's very scary, because in every scenario in history where people have been massacred, they've been tortured, it usually starts like this, with a camp that's far away from the prying eyes of advocates and people that can help them. So that is the current situation right now. I do anticipate that this is going to be challenged for sure. I know the ACLU has already been demanding access to those who have been detained already at Guantanamo Bay. So as this unfolds, I'll definitely keep you updated. But there are valid concerns here. And the fact that the judge put the hold on sending these three Venezuelan immigrants to Guantanamo Bay, it might just be extended. So we have to see, just extended based on maybe additional challenges that may be coming through. In addition to this, 27 churches or houses of worship did sue the administration based on their policy that they could go into churches and get, places of worship to get undocumented immigrants, or to do raids. So I'll keep you updated on that litigation as well. Um, when it comes on to relief, that is, amidst this chaos, that's where we need to focus on solutions, because there are these legal solutions that are there, and we have been getting bona fide determination letters that offers our clients protection. So if our clients are going through deportation, it stops the deportation process. If our clients have never been through deportation, they are protected with the bona fide determination while their process is going through. And then there's also the work permit, the travel document, which I would say this: do not, just because you have a travel document, don't just get up and travel. Make sure you're getting the legal advice of your attorney. You understand the risk, because right now the risks are very high to travel outside of the United States with even a travel document. So you want to be aware of your risk. Now, in order to get these solutions that I'm talking about, these solutions that offer protections, it offers temporary protection, but then it leads to permanent solutions for you once you're approved. These benefits, you have to get if you qualify for certain immigration relief, right? So you'll see multiple times in multiple of my videos I talk about it, but I can't. It is something that I need to keep talking about, because this is where you need to focus on. You need to focus on solutions. Some people, when you think you're here, you've overstayed your visa, you don't have your immigration papers anymore, you think that's the end of the road. It's either marriage or nothing at all. And maybe you don't have the option to get married. But that's not true. We can then evaluate your case to see, are there any other circumstances in your background that you may not even know about that qualifies you. For example, have you been the victim of a crime here? Have you been in a situation where you felt trapped because of the actions of somebody else who tried to force you to do things against your will? Whether it's to do labor, whether it's to do sex acts, that's another option. Have you been here for less than 1 year, and have you stayed because you are afraid to return to your home country, because you know you're going to be attacked, you're going to be killed, something is going to happen, you're going to be targeted with violence? that can lead to asylum. But these are kinds of situations that we need to talk to you about first. Even in cases where you may be running out of status, right? Maybe you have your status, like you have your 2-year green card, but maybe it's come to the end of the road in your marriage, or your spouse left you or divorced you. Now you're trying to figure out how can you continue to maintain your status. That too has a solution, but we need to understand your circumstances. We need to get your facts. And that's why what we're doing now is we are doing free initial evaluations to be able to provide you, ask questions to make sure that you can understand whether there is a possibility we can help you. So that this is a win-win situation. You can call, and no, you'll have to call during working hours right now. You can call now. We have our call team that's available around the clock. And that would be best, because what they can do is they're going to answer the call, and then they're going to make sure that they get your information so that our intake specialist can contact you and get the initial evaluation started ASAP during office hours. This is not something you have to schedule right on the spot. Once our intake specialists call you, then um, we'll be able to do that evaluation for you. And then once we determine, yes, looks like there is something that we may be able to do, then we want to talk to you in depth about strategy to move forward, right? And we're doing this to make sure we can get to as many people as possible, so that you can at least call to figure out, is there a starting point for you? So get in touch with us. The numbers going across the screen on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And then if you go scroll to the top of the comment section, you'll see my name, my number. Call that number. And by the way, you can also send us DMs. Send us a DM, and we are also answering through our messaging system so that we can provide you attention. So go ahead, take those avenues. It's very easy to get in touch with us. So get that done ASAP. Now that I have just talked to you about, I've given you a very quick rundown of solutions. Of course, if you follow me, you subscribe, you get videos. I release many videos because the focus is to empower you with information. So I provide many videos throughout the day talking about different avenues, different ways to approach your immigration case. So this is all there for you to empower yourself. So make sure you're following, make sure you subscribe. And now on TikTok, as we approach the 90-day deadline, we may not be here again on TikTok. So what I would suggest you do, for starting now, join our Instagram account, join our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is Getting the Green Card. You can go to YouTube, put Getting the Green Card, all one word, and you'll be able to subscribe there. Because then if I can't access the lives here, then you can always jump on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube to join me there. And I do longer videos, by the way. Even if you're on Facebook, you're on YouTube, I do longer videos about different subject matter on YouTube. So if you want to see longer videos, really, I'm excited about the next few videos that are coming up, because they talk about types of ways to avoid getting denials in your cases. So make sure you look at that on YouTube. So Getting the Green Card. So thanks so much, everybody, for being here. And now I'm going to answer your questions. So thanks so much for your time. It's always great to see you and spend time with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on Instagram, and I'm going to work my way around. So keep putting your questions in the comments, and then I'm going to get to the platform. So TikTok, you'll see me looking this way. I'm reading questions out and answering questions, and we all can benefit. from hearing questions as well and the answers to go with it. So let's see. Yeah, so in Nigeria, you want to come with your fiance, but it's crazy. Yes, it is. And it's probably going to get crazier. Can you elaborate on domestic flights right now? Is it safe to travel until May 7th? So, what's happening is if you're hearing May 7th, it means that they're going to have the Real ID Act. And the Real ID Act is going to require that if you're going to travel with your driver's license, it has to be a special driver's license. Usually, it has to have like a star in the corner of it. Those who even have regular driver's license, regardless of your immigration status, will have to go back to the DMV to get the Real ID if they want to travel. However, not everyone is gonna have the Real ID. If you don't have the Real ID and you do qualify to travel, there are no additional risks to travel. You can use your passport. So, for example, if you're visiting the US, you have a visa and you want to travel from state to state, you wouldn't have a Real ID driver's license. You would have to use your passport and showing your visa to, travel. So that is what is coming up for this year is the Real ID Act. So that's going to go into effect where they're going to require, but if you don't have that, then you're going to have to use alternative identification, but it has to be acceptable. For example, like your passport. So you'd have to contact the airlines to make sure that you're meeting the requirements for identification. Now, if you don't have your papers here, you don't have your papers, you want to make sure that you understand the risk. The risk is heightened by 100 going on a plane, even if you're traveling within the United States. Now, if you have your work permit, you have a valid and current work permit, that should not be a problem. But where the problem is going to be is if you're traveling with your passport and you also have like an expired visa, or you never had a visa to begin with, and you can't show that you have legal permission to be in the United States, that's going to be where the real risk is. Ma'am, please tell me, 2-year expedited removal law apply? Yes. So the 2-year expedited removal is now nationwide. Before it was within 100 miles of the border. That if an immigrant who recently crossed the border, who has been in the country for less than 2 years, who is caught without legal status within 100 miles of the border, can be put through expedited removal. So this is where it's very important to carry around with you proof that you've been in the country for more than 2 years in case you're stopped. If you don't have your papers, then that would be the next the fallback. But keep in mind, this it's very we have to be very careful with this advice, because you can carry your documents around, but you really have to figure out when is the best time to present those and what you should say. The best policy is to exercise your right to remain silent. You can, for example, you can provide your identifying documents, but do not answer questions about your status. At that point, if you're obligated to provide your identifying documents, you do that, but do not, you don't have to answer follow-up questions. You can remain silent until you can speak to your attorney. Always make sure you seek the advice of your attorney, and you do have a right to speak to your attorney. So the best policy is to remain silent until you can talk to your attorney about that, and then the attorney can tell you what to do from there. But there have been situations where when they have for example, clients have the receipt notice, they are able to then not be detained because they have proof of pending status. So it just depends. It depends on what your circumstances are, and my advice would change based on that. But this is where I say definitely make sure you save the number for an attorney or save the number for an organization that has attorneys, like pro bono attorneys, if you can't afford one, that you can call and get help or advice. Thank you. Can someone with HND apply for HB2? I'm not sure what HND is. You'll have to expand on that HND. It's a little late, so my brain might be moving a little slower. Uh, Hello. With Real ID process starting May 7th, will TSA be asking someone with foreign passport for valid visa to be in that passport? Yes, it's possible. It's possible now. Even now, they will start to do that because enforcement is expanded everywhere. So you can be anywhere in this country. You can be at the airport, and they can then refer you for expedited removal. So one thing that's happening is that um, President Trump, which Homan is spearheading this mass deportation operation, they're not happy right now with how few arrests there have been. They want more. They want more arrests, and so right now there's a shakeup at the ICE where they've removed two top officials. They're replacing them because they didn't meet the quota. That goes to show how much more aggressive they plan to get. Like, this is probably just the beginning. So they're not slowing down, and they have removed these two of top officials in ICE because it was slowing down, and they don't want the detainments the arrests to slow down. So they're going to make it possible to detain and look out for immigrants who don't have their papers any and everywhere. And the airport will provide easy pickings for that. Okay, so this is a good question. Somebody did say, why, I guess in response to why are they sending them to Guantanamo Bay? Why can't they send them back to their countries? Well, that's because and I'm not the attorney involved in their cases, but it's very likely that these migrants want to go through the due process to get protection. And if they can't just put them on a plane and send them back without a removal order. So they have to go before a judge, they have to state their case before the judge, and then the judge can make a final decision. And so they're sending them to Guantanamo Bay to go through this process. But that's the concern. If they're sending them to Guantanamo Bay, are they being given the opportunity to go through the due process, like the court proceedings, to state their case as to why they need to stay in the United States? How long does EAD come after the bona fide letter approval? So that is still ongoing. I am anticipating 3 to 6 months after with the bona fide return. So 3 to 6 months is when the processing of the I-765 alone can take place. So we haven't been seeing a lot of the work permits coming, just the bona fides, and now they're going to process the work permit applications. So I'm anticipating it would probably be another 3 to 6 months. And keep in mind too, we could possibly see a change there. It hasn't been announced yet, but we could see changes coming. And of course, we'll know the date that it's going to happen. Hello, can you get your Social Security with a prima facie letter? No. IR1 spouse, U.S. citizen. I applied I-130 USCIS. My PD priority date is 28 December 2023, when I will expect an approval. So it can take 9 months or 12 months to be approved. So, and then keep in mind that yours might be taking out longer because I think a year has already gone by. So it might take out longer, but in my experience, it's usually 9 to 12 months. Hi there, Mika. Thank you so much. Blessed night to you too. All right. Okay, so I'm on YouTube now, and I'm gonna head over to TikTok. So hang tight. Good evening. Please, EAD is still coming with 5 years validity or less. Yes, so they would announce when that's going to change. Can someone eligible for T visa if the employer doesn't give the SSN? So I believe you've asked this. Get in touch with us and let's find out your circumstances. What does it mean when your status says case is actively being reviewed by USCIS? Don't hold your breath. But it means at this point they don't need anything else from you. It's just in line to be reviewed. So, but it doesn't mean an officer is actually reading your case. It might mean that your case is maybe at the bottom of a stack, close to their desk. But you can see this case is actively reviewed, being reviewed by USCIS. You might see this for a year, before you see any movement. The day I did the VAWA case, my prima facie became same day. Tell me something about it. So I'm not sure what you're saying. Prima facie doesn't come on the same day you file the VAWA case. I don't know if I'm misunderstanding, but the prima facie also provides you a certain amount of protection, temporary protection, and it gives you the ability to seek certain benefits and assistance while you wait that won't be held against you. Any hope for overstayed more than 20 years? Yes, there is hope, but you need to contact us. That's where you definitely need to contact us, and we can find out in those 20 years what have you been through to see if there's any relief available for you. I would be happy if you could tell me something about VAWA. So, if you've been mistreated by a US citizen, spouse, or a permanent resident spouse, a parent, and you're under 21 or under 25 in some circumstances, or you've been mistreated by a US citizen, son or daughter who's age 21 or older, then you may qualify for VAWA. And the VAWA gets you your work permit, it gets you your travel document, and you're able to get those in about I would say 6 to 12 months. And then it leads to the green card after it's approved. So it is a very, very valuable form of relief in a case of mistreatment by certain U.S. citizen or resident citizens and relatives. How long after bona fide approval do they approve the work permit? Now, keep in mind that the bona fide approval provides protection. So once you have that, you know that you have a certain level of protection while your case moves forward. The work permit gets processed afterwards. And so think the estimated time I would say is 3 to 6 months, um, give or take. However, it wouldn't make sense for it to go much longer because the entire processing time for the T visa is about 18 months now. So it's gotten a little longer. I'm noticing processing times are getting a little longer, which unfortunately we are going to see that, by the way. We're going to see longer processing times. I'm sure of it, that we saw the last time. So be ready for that. T visa sent on August 28th and haven't gotten a bona fide determination letter. Should I be concerned? So we are seeing them in 70 to 90 days. I don't know what your case is, and it could be anything. So, what we have been finding is they are prioritizing, which yours would be prioritized because yours was sent on August 28th. They're prioritizing those applications that were filed on or after August 28th. And then they're only issuing bona fides if they issue a request for evidence for anybody who filed before. But if they see anybody that was filed before, they just are working to make a final decision. But if they need more information, then they issue a bona fide while you wait. So that's the rule right now. Why? Oh, here's a good one that I definitely want to tackle here. Why are illegal immigrants allowed to get government resources? Absolutely not. This is a myth. It is a lie. Immigrants are not allowed, undocumented immigrants are not allowed to get. First of, for example, my clients have been through the worst of the worst as victims here. And even my clients, when they need resources, they have to get those resources from or charitable organizations that get grants to run. They do not get food stamps. They don't get any of those benefits. So that's a lie. Don't believe it. It's just one of the propaganda, the forms of propaganda to drive this hate against immigrants. So that is not the case. Most immigrants, vast majority of immigrants will not qualify for undocumented, for benefits here. I have questions of a green card holder gets stationed overseas in Germany with military spouse. What do they need to do to re-enter the States? Would it be fine to re-enter with military orders? So I would have to just make sure to see if there are different rules for military spouses of military members. Um, if you have your green card though, and you got the permission, you were stationed on a military base, then I believe that's an exception. But that is really something that we would have to talk to you personally about. Um, if you do have to go overseas and you're not assigned to a military base, then there's what's called the re-entry permit that you have to apply for before you leave the country. But living on a military base with your spouse may be an exception to the rule here. Um, Another question, when you get your work permit and have a pending marriage-based green card, do you have to get a job within a time frame? No, absolutely not. The work permit, there's nothing that says you have to, you don't even have to work. If your spouse is taking care of you and the both of you are comfortable like that, you don't even have to work. So the work permit can be there. You can use it for identification. You can use it as proof that you have been given temporary authorization to be here. So those are added benefits of the work permit. You don't need to find a job in a certain amount of time. Good night. Can a brother file for a sister that overstayed her visa? Can she stay in the country until it's time to go home to the embassy? So it's not going to work so smoothly. And this is why this is a bad option, especially if you're trying to look at options to fix the situation now. That the reason for that is it takes 14 years for a sibling to file for a sibling at minimum. And even then, you have to get a special waiver after the 14 years to give you permission to leave to go to your interview and not have the overstay held against you. But to qualify for that waiver, your immigrant sister would have to have a US citizen or permanent resident spouse or parent who will experience extreme hardship if they had to leave. So as you can see, it's definitely not going to be a quick solution, the solutions that we're looking at right now, right? So your sister is definitely better off contacting us and doing an initial evaluation to determine whether there's something else that can be done. Is marriage-based green card process still 6 months if you had to apply last year? No. So 6 months is one of the rarities. I would say it's more that I would say, well, not rarity, because I did get one of my marriage-based cases in 4 months. But I would say right now the trend is about 10 to 12 months. We might see it get longer because during the last Trump administration, that's exactly what happened is they mandated interviews. So they required interviews for every case before they would approve it. And because of that, it extended the processing time, so about a year and a half. Um, all right. All right, TikTok. I'm seeing a ton of questions flowing in. How long is the process for the work permit? It can range. It depends on the case that you're under which you're applying for the work permit. It can range from 6 months to 12 months. Well, I'd say 3 months to 6 months for marriage-based, employment-based cases, but also 6 months to 12 months for VAWA cases, 18 months for a T visa, a year and a half for the U visa, exactly 6 months for the asylum. Can you explain steps of the T visa? So the T visa, once we determine that you qualify, then we go ahead and we gather the documentation necessary. And then we also help you. There are certain reporting requirements, and we help each of our clients to go through the process in a way that's confidential, where they know they're protected. And then once we go through that process, then we file their case. Once it's filed, they do a biometrics appointment, and then you get a bona fide determination letter. That's discretionary, but most of our clients are getting it, and they would get it in about I would say 70 to 90 days. And then after they issue that, they process the work permit that we send in as well. So the work permit, we'd have to see the work permit is under deferred action, so we could see about a year or 2 year work permit. And then after that, once it's approved, then you would get a 4 year work permit and a 4 year visa stay, like a status. And then after 3 years, you can officially apply for your green card. So that is the T visa in a nutshell. I did my fingerprint yesterday. Can I apply for my work permit now? So doing fingerprints alone, it's not going to qualify you for the work permit. So I highly suggest you make sure you get legal advice. You can always call us and do that initial evaluation to see if there's an option we can help you with. Can I file for a green card outside the US? Yes, but yes, absolutely. You can file for the green card, but um, it depends on what you're filing. For example, are you filing for the national interest waiver? You can do it outside the country, but you have to wait outside the country, go through an interview process, make sure your priority date is current, and so forth. How long would it take for me to get my social security and work permit after filing marriage based? I would say 3 to 6 months. We might, right now, 3 to 6 months. Of course, processing times are always subject to change. I don't control the processing times. If you're in the US for 20 years and you have a work permit, um, and I didn't see the rest. Okay, my conditional green card expired. Get in touch with us ASAP. Please note, if you have a 2 year conditional green card, do not wait for it to expire. There are options available. So I know sometimes there's this misconception that if the spouse is not available to apply with you, that it's over, right? And you no longer have status. That is not true. But what will happen eventually is you will get a notice to appear once they realize you never renewed it or remove the conditions on the 2 year. They're going to send a notice to appear for you to defend against deportation, which means now you will be involved in possible removal uh, processes, right? Where they could detain you now. So, especially if you don't have your valid green card, I mean, if they are detaining citizens, they will see an expired green card and still detain you and ask questions later. So you don't want to be caught up on that. There are options available to do this without a spouse involved. So this is where I say get in touch with me. You can do it if you can show divorce. Your marriage was valid, but you just divorced. If you can show that you were mistreated by the spouse, or that you will experience extreme hardship if you have to lose your green card, and you will experience extreme hardship because of developments that happened over the past 2 years that you've built a life here, then you can qualify to get your own card without involving somebody else. The court granted adjustment of status. Do I need to wait for an available visa to get my green card? So once you've been granted adjustment of status, that means you do have available. They wouldn't grant adjustment of status without you having a priority date current. So that's good news. Congratulations. Can you explain the steps of the T visa? Get in touch with us if you have been in a situation where you felt trapped because someone did something to you that made you feel this way and forced you to do things against your will, whether it's labor, whether it's sexual acts, anything, any task that you had to do against your will because of the things this person was doing, maybe threatening, then you may qualify for this. And this is where we now want to talk facts, because that what I just said, the scenario I just told you is very vague, right? And it's vague because there are so many different ways that can happen. So this is where we put the time into hearing what your situation is. And it starts at this free evaluation that we offer, right? So it starts from there that we ask these kind of questions. And then we start to work on strategy on how we can approach your case to get you relief here. Now, keep in mind that that's what the solution is here, right? We're not hearing anything about targeting people who have immigrants who have their papers or who are in process. What they are focused on, though, are individuals. They have said, of course, individuals who have criminal records, individuals who pose a danger to national security, those who have crossed the border without permission, recent arrivals, so those who that they can do expedited removal. They're focused on those individuals. But even in some of those cases, those individuals, if they don't have any basis to be here, they're going to quickly be sent out of the country. And that's where the difference between filing your case, making sure that you have proof that you qualify for relief here, and not having anything at all, right? Is that, especially if you've been here for under 2 years, it means that you can be shipped out without court, without anything, in expedited removal. How long would it take for me to get social and work permit after filing marriage? I'd say 3 to 6 months. I came from the border and I'm about to marry a citizen. Can I have a green card? Keep in mind, if you enter the country without inspection, you would not be allowed to do adjustment of status. It's going to be a different process called I-601A process. If you were paroled into the country, given permission, then yes, and it has to be a specific type of parole, then yes. Um, how long would it take for me to get my, oh, so I answered that. Answered that. Can I still file for VAWA after getting an interview invite and my spouse is refusing to go? If you're outside of the United States, there are certain things that you'd have to show that you experienced abuse while you were staying with your spouse in the United States. So if you experience abuse while visiting your spouse in the United States, then that might be a possibility. Also, if your spouse is a military member or a federal government worker, then that is also another way. If you're outside of the United States, you can apply. If you're in the United States and they're refusing to help you get through the process because the focus is to abuse you or to mistreat you or to get back at you, then that is VAWA is a real possibility. But give us a call. That's exactly what we do. So give us a call. Start with the initial evaluation first to determine what's going on, and then we can get started. Would bona fide determination come a year after biometrics? Not usually a year. So I would say a month or two. The court granted adjustment of style. Okay, so I answered that. I have a 512 parole and a travel 2 times. I want to travel again, but I have an interview next month. I'd say I'm not your attorney. I can't give you personalized legal advice. But in a situation like that, if I had my client, I would definitely advise against traveling. Just get through the process, get to the end of the process, minimize the risk, any kind of risk that can come up before that interview, and focus on the interview. Of course, I'm not your attorney. I don't know why the reason you need to travel, but I'm really advising. I'm erring on the side of stay put for now, at least until we can get settled into this administration, and we can see what the patterns are regarding travel, regarding how they approach these situations. I would not travel very quickly, but keep in mind, I'm not your attorney. I can't give you personalized legal advice. Uh, did in March 7th to March 24th, they want to open visa work visa. So I'm not sure if you're referring to H-1B. I'm not sure. If my husband is a green card holder, can he file for me? We're married for 12 years. I overstayed. So your case is going to be a little more complicated. Your spouse needs to become a U.S. citizen. They will not allow you to stay here and get the green card if you continue the process with him as a green card holder. He needs to be a citizen first. I'm a U.S. citizen. How long would it take for parents? So I would say the same 10 to 12 months. I've overstayed for 2 years now. How can I legalize myself? I would have to find out what's going on to tell you what you may qualify for. Would bona fide determination come? Okay, so answer that. After applying for U visa, how long it takes to receive work permit? A year and a half to 2 years. U.S. citizen, how long would it take for parents? Hello, should I file a motion to reopen while I-130 is pending? That is complicated. You definitely want to talk to us in an appointment, at least a strategy session to determine what to do here. If my husband is a green card holder, can he file for me? Okay, so I answered that. Okay. Can they put someone on deportation who has an employment authorization card till 2029, as long as it's valid and your process is you have a status related to that, whether it's T status, U, or whether it's you're going through the process like a marriage-based process and you have a valid current work permit, then it is very unlikely that they are going to detain you. Now, if anything new comes up, like for example, under the Lake and Riley Act, if you're arrested for something like shoplifting, or if you end up in trouble with the law, then having a work permit, it may not stop you from being deported if you are deportable based on a crime. So you just have to be very mindful of that. Of course, majority of immigrants are law abiding, so there are no issues there. So having the work permit that's valid, current, and you don't have anything in your background that makes you deportable, it means you are protected. You won't be subject to deportation while you have a valid work permit. If my husband is a green card holder, can he file for? Okay, so I answered that. Um, January 13 has been 3 years since I filed I-360, and only thing I received is prima facie. So I would say around now, so the 3 year mark is when the decision usually comes through. So hang tight, something is coming. Do you know anything about parole in place for other situations? Parole in place only applies to military, usually military families. So if you're the spouse, the parent, the child of a military member, then you can apply for parole in place. If I just got my PR, can I visit USA? I'm not sure what PR is. If it's permanent residence, if PR, usually I connect that with permanent residence, but that means you should be living here. Um, Please, I have overstayed my visa. Can I be deported immediately without seeing a lawyer? If you've been here for less than 2 years, um, keep in mind that you could be subject to expedited removal, but you should ask for a lawyer. They should be able to and you should not say anything. Just request your lawyer, and then at that point, you can seek the advice of the lawyer. So, what I say here is make sure you prepare an emergency plan. Make sure you do have a lawyer that you can call that can provide you legal advice about how to proceed. But if you've been here for less than 2 years, then you could always be subject to expedited removal. I'm trying to have one-on-one. So give us a call or just send us a message. It's really not that difficult to get through to the office. Can I get a divorce on a 2 year green card? Yes. But what I would say is talk to us first. That those cases we work on these cases all the time. So give us a call, do initial evaluation so that we can talk to you about strategy. Because, for example, we just got our client approved, and our client called us before she did anything. She called us, she told us what was happening, told us that she does want to leave the marriage that where her spouse was mistreating her. What we did was we prioritized her application based on the mistreatment. And then once that was settled, she moved forward with her divorce. The divorce was finalized and she got her green card. So absolutely. And she did become separated during that time as well. So it's definitely possible. Should I file a motion to reopen while I-130 is pending, or wait once it's approved? So usually, no, I'm not your attorney, and when it comes to this is very complicated. really comes down to strategy and timing. So I don't want to advise on this because I don't want it to be generalized, any actions to be generalized here. So this is where you definitely want to get an attorney on board regarding the motion to reopen or terminate, because timing is going to depend on what are the circumstances in your case. What are your chances? What kind of I-130 is it? Is the I-130 expected to be approved within a year, or can you see multiple years? So definitely give us a call and we can go through that. Thank you so much, Carolas, for the gifts. I appreciate it. Should I file a motion to okay, so I answered that. Can an undocumented person self-deport without ever being detained? Yes. So now, when we say self-deport, it just means to go back home. And yes, you just book your ticket. It's very rare that they would give you a problem leaving the country, right? So you just book your ticket, make sure you have your passport, the valid documents to travel and re-enter your country, and that is a possibility. Uh, is it possible for someone on F1, which is a student visa, to get permanent resident? You'd have to qualify for it either through employment, family, humanitarian even means, but we would have to figure out if you qualify to make that transition. There's no automatic step from student visa to green card. All right, so I'm seeing more questions. I can't resist. Let me just go through some more questions here. On Instagram, I'm a US citizen, but I came here undocumented. Do you think I can still travel? Yes. If you're a US citizen, you can travel. But keep in mind that they may put you through secondary inspection, which can be nerve-wracking. If they do have in the system that you were undocumented in the past, that might happen. It was happening a lot during the last administration. It stopped during this administration, but we can see that happening again. I've been here for 30 years undocumented. What hope do I have? Give us a call. Let's talk to you. Because I know after 30 years, you've been through a lot, and sometimes there is relief, and we can find that relief for you. But you have to definitely reach out, talk to us in an initial evaluation where we can do that evaluation, and then once we find something that you may be able to qualify for, then we as attorneys get involved and we want to talk to you more in depth about strategy moving forward. So don't wait, schedule it. Now is the time. What to do if your date of birth is wrong on your work permit? You have to get it corrected. I am here a long time, don't have any papers. No, we help with this, but you have to reach out and give us a call and schedule that initial evaluation. Not schedule, do the initial evaluation, and then we'll be able to talk to you about strategy on options. After I apply for T visa, how long it takes for a person to do biometrics? I'd say a month to 2 months. Can I do VAWA if my husband does not want to help me? I think no, it depends. Like, keep in mind that, yeah, no, the reason why I say it's very possible you qualify for VAWA, it's a big red flag for VAWA, is which spouse doesn't want to look out for their immigrant spouse's best interests and get their papers? There is something wrong with that situation if your spouse is not making a move to get your papers and yet they want to build a life with you. That's contradictory. So that usually indicates they're controlling, they're using your immigration status against you and enjoying the fact they have leverage over you. And so they don't want to apply for your papers. Those are forms of emotional mistreatment or abuse that can qualify you for VAWA. So it's going to depend, but this is where you give us a call because we definitely work on those cases. How long does work permit for abandon? How long does work permit for abandonment? And I think you might be referring to VAWA. So 6 to 12 months. Can you apply for the updated Social Security card without the restrictions on it when you get a 2-year green card? Yes, you're supposed to go back to the USCIS, I mean the Social Security office, and have your status updated once you get your 2-year green card. So yeah, when you apply for VAWA for green card and your I-765 and parole was denied, what should the person do? Should they reapply? Why was it denied? We'd have to figure that out because it might make sense to reapply, but we'd have to figure out what was the reason for the denial to see, oh, that was a simple error that caused the denial. Let's just reapply. Good evening. I've sent you. Okay, so that is that's a non-immigration thing. How long after VAWA application you receive travel documents and work permit? So 6 to 12 months. Would you please tell me that? Would you please tell me why persons who are having valid documents have been deported? So we haven't heard of anybody having valid documents being deported. Now, if what's happening though is that they terminated the programs that allowed people to come. So from Venezuela, Haiti, on day one, the Trump administration ended those parole programs. So anybody who's here on the parole programs, they once their status ends, they will not be able to renew it. And so what's going to happen is they may be forced to go back to their country. So, that is the harsh reality here of what has happened in those cases. And so they are going to be suffering the consequences of that in the near future. Um, when do you do asylum and the Zoom? It is more better to face because the court also requests face surface interview. I'm not sure about this question. What is your requirement with asylum court case? So usually once you're referred to court, then you can use asylum defensively, meaning as a defense to deportation. So if you qualify, you can show you qualify for asylum, you will not be deported. You do have to state your case in a master calendar hearing, and then the judge will schedule time to submit motions and briefs about the qualifying for the asylum, and then schedule an individual hearing to basically decide the merits of your case. So what are very important documents? So in asylum, it's gonna depend on what the facts are in your case, but it's gonna be documents that prove that you face a threat in your country. Can my PR mom adopt and file for my 17-year-old? Once they're 17, it will, for immigration purposes, it would not work. They have to be under 16. Can someone apply for VAWA if their case was denied because the spouse didn't show for his biometrics? It's yes, it's possible, but this is where get in touch with us for sure. No, do not put your information in the chat. Make sure you're sending us a DM. So DM us, please. Don't put your information in the chat. I'm Daka and I have been married to my spouse for 7 years. She's a US citizen. What are the options for me to obtain citizenship? So in your case, it really comes down to advanced parole, where you can get advanced parole, leave the country, and if you're paroled back in with that advanced parole, then you would be able to show that you now have legal entry, and then you could adjust status. But it all comes down to, will you be approved for advanced parole? So that is one of the options. That would be your best option in this case. If we have to explore other options, we'd have to talk to you to figure out what are your circumstances. What's the circumstances surrounding your entry into the U.S.? All right. How long it takes to file for your mom in different countries? So I would say 2 years, a year and a half to 2 years. Um, Okay, so I'm a US citizen. I filed for my wife's I-130 and it has been actively reviewing since January 4, 2024. How long does it take to be approved? This is consular processing. So you should expect a decision any minute now, because I would say it's about a year, 9 months to a year. And then after that, keep in mind that you have about another year and a half to 2 years of waiting for an interview. It's very extremely frustrating, but that is what is happening now. Thanks so much, Marcelo. I appreciate the encouragement. I really do. US citizen, parent, sponsor, adult, unmarried. Priority date is 2018. Cases at NVC since 2020. How long before green card interviews? So after you're documentarily qualified, that means you've submitted all the documents that they want. You about a year and a half to 2 years. Yep. So that's what's happening. And guys, with this administration, we might see get longer. So, just gear up for that. And this is where I also say, if you are doing consular processing, it's not the time to gamble and do these things that you don't have expertise on. It's not worth it, because as I said before, the wait is about a year and a half to 2 years at the embassy. However, if you make one mistake equals 6 months of delays. Why I say that? For example, when the National Visa Center, so the way consular processing works is, and consular processing means you're here in the US as a citizen or resident and you're sponsoring your spouse or family member in another country. They have to attend their interview at the embassy in their country. So they wait in their country to get to the interview, get approved before they come to the US. So you file the petition, it gets approved after a while, 9 months to 12 months, maybe a little longer, depending on category your immigrant relative is in. Then it moves to the National Visa Center. The National Visa Center is like the middleman between the embassy and the petitioner and immigrant. NVC is going to say, okay, it's time to give us your documents and pay certain fees. I tell you this, one mistake on those documents that they're asking you to send is going to take 6 months. right? 6 months. So it takes about 2 to 3 months for them to review the documents to say, oh, this looks great. And then if one thing is off and they're not going to accept those documents because something is off with it, this includes the affidavit of support, then they're going to send it back and say, hey, we're not accepting this, try again. And then guess what's going to happen? You're going to, depending on whatever the issue is, you're going to have to go figure out what the problem is, fix it. Then, so say that takes a week to 2 weeks for you to fix that. And then you're resubmitted, and then it's going to take another 2 to 3 months for them to just tell you, okay, this looks good. And Lord forbid you make a second mistake. So I did have a client that eventually, that's the reason the client hired me, was she was at this for 3 years doing this, right? She could have been into country 1 year after her process started, but because the mistakes kept on happening, it dragged on for 2 more years. So this is what happens with mistakes. So please make sure you invest and uh, get attorneys who are experienced to do this for you, because one mistake can equal 6 months delay. Um, No marriage, family, or employment petition at the moment, only eligible for 245I. What can be done? So, yes, even if you are qualified for 245I, you need to have somebody petition for you in order to assert your eligibility for 245I. So, unfortunately, at this time, um, yes, you're eligible, but you have to have a petition, something to file, and then use the 245I. I have had a VAWA case since 2022. They keep sending me prima facies. How long will it take to receive a work permit? Now, if you need to file an adjustment of status, so look into that. Did you file an adjustment of status with the VAWA? That might be the problem. Please, how long to get receipt notice after VAWA submitted? So 2 weeks, but keep in mind right now they're making the transition. So we might see, the worst I've seen, the longest is 8 weeks during busy times like this. It's usually very busy during this time. And they're just recovering from Christmas. Now they're transitioning into a new administration. So you could see up to 8 weeks before you get that receipt notice. But this is where I say always send your packets in to USCIS with tracking so you can at least confirm they got it. So that's my input right there. Can I file for my citizenship with I-751? Yes, it's possible, just depending on timing. You're welcome, Tessa. If my husband has doctor and I applied for a petition, is it a way to get around him going to Mexico for final step? No, not right off the bat. Just having a doctor alone isn't going to. They're still not going to allow you to do adjustment of status because it's just the law. Um, If T visa gets denied, will you be deported? Under the current policy that's in place, the regulations, it clearly states that if you have been denied, they are not in the business of issuing a notice to appear in court. That might change along the way under this administration, but it's written in regulatory policy. So that means that is the rule that they're abiding by now, that it's not standard practice to just deport you. Outside of you being if they find that you're a threat the usual threat to public safety, that may be an exception, but generally they will not do that. If that does change, of course, I will let you know if that policy does change. If you got a T visa pending, can you file for derivatives and what? Yes, so you can file for derivatives. Do T visa victims should be concerned if you have T process after the biometrics fingerprint? Do T visa victims should they be concerned if you have a T visa process after biometrics fingerprint? I'm not sure what that means. No, you shouldn't be concerned. Sounds like everything is going well. Asylum granted. Can I have my bond refund? So yeah, if you went through defensive asylum and it was approved, then you'd have to go back to the USCIS, and I believe you have to fill out certain forms. The person that submitted the bond has to submit the form in order to get the bond back. Good evening, please. EAD is still coming with 5 years validity or less or less. Right now, it's 5 years. That may be subject to change, just like the Trump administration changed it the last time. All right, that's gonna be it for me, everybody. Thanks so much for your time. I'm going to be back. I'm gonna work to be back tomorrow. But as I said before, like, subscribe, follow, so that I can show up on your timeline. And then also, if you're available and I come on live, you'll be notified of that, so you can join me, because I tend to my days are so busy now with just trying to get these cases going and flowing, that I don't have a set time right now that I just can come on. So please make sure you hop on when you see me, and if you have time. Also, remember, I'm doing free initial evaluations to be able to figure out what are some possibilities for you. Please take advantage of that. Give us a call 24/7, and then during the business hours, we'll definitely call you back and get that evaluation done. All right, have a great one, everybody. Good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.